call the meeting to order. Can I confirm that we are being recorded? Okay. All right. We are going to open up today with our first regulation hearing. I will now open the public hearing on CAR 6556 and CAR 65515. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the Kansas Administrative Procedures Act. I briefly want to confirm the process which has been followed, which is required by CAFA. The regulations, organization style, orthography, and grammar have been approved by the Department of Administration. The regulations have been approved in writing by the Attorney General as to legality. The regulations, along with the economic impact statement, has been submitted to the Director of Budget for review of the accuracy and completeness of the agency economic impact statement. On April 25th, 2024, a notice of today's hearing on the proposed amended CAR 6556 and new CAR 65515 was published in the Kansas Register, which complies with the 60 days notice required by law. In addition, the proposed amended regulations were submitted to the Legislative Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regulations and the Kansas Legislative Research Department, which reviewed the proposed amended regulation on June 20th, 2024. The committee had no comments on either regulation. In regards to today's hearing, I first want to confirm what will be admitted into the record for the hearing, and the following will be admitted. Notice of hearing published on April 25th, 2024. The regulations stamped as approved by both the Secretary of Administration and the Attorney General. The economic impact statements for both regulations, and the report of the June 20th, 2024 meeting of JCAR described in the Kansas Legislative Research Department's July 2nd, 2024 letter. Ms. Murray, the board has been provided with 16 written comments received from 8 members of the public prior to today's hearing. I note that all the comments were directed towards the proposed changes to CAR 6556. No written comments were received related to CAR 65515. Are there any additional written comments to be admitted into the record regarding either regulation?
No, there is not.
We will be opening up the hearing for any verbal comments of any other public member that wishes to make. So this will conclude the introduction of the verbal comments at today's hearings. We will now consider the board action on the proposed amendment to CAR 6556 or new regulation CAR 65515. At this time, I will consider any board discussion or motion to go into closed session or a motion to take action on the proposed amendment. Does any board member wish to make a comment on the proposed amended regulation? Does any board member wish to make a motion to go in? Oh, I'm sorry. Does anyone have a motion to make?
So as far as the process goes, similar to how you make your motions in a regular meeting, there needs to be a motion and then a second, and then we'll engage in a roll call vote once the motion has been seconded.
Can we motion to accept both, or?
You can, yes.
I make a motion to accept KAR 65-5-6 and KAR 65-5-15.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And Ms. Murray, will you take us into a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Bircher.
Aye.
Dr. Nagaraja.
Aye.
Dr. Beaver.
Aye.
Dr. Walters.
Aye.
And Mr. Katz.
Aye.
Ms. Murray has prepared a certificate of adoption for our approval of the amended regulation today, which will record the roll call vote. I will sign the certificate of adoption on behalf of the board. In closing, I would like to make a reference to the principal reasons the board adopted the changes to CAR 6556. This change increases the number of non-live hours of CE from 8 to 12 hours and recognizes and balances both the importance of licensees continuing to receive live in-person CE, including discourse and discussion with colleagues, while at the same time providing greater flexibility for busy licensees to obtain focused and practice-specific courses, remote delivery, which otherwise may not be readily available in person. Most of the comments received focused on the distinction between a live in-person presentation and a live remote presentation. While the board appreciates the demands that the live in-person requirement can put on a busy schedule, we believe the live in-person is important to the continued learning of licensees. We clarified the definition of live presentation so that there should be no question regarding the requirement that a licensee is physically present in the same room as the presenter. We added detail to what non-COPE approved course sponsors are required to submit to the board for 30 days advance notice approval of the courses. This ensures our licensees continue to receive high quality CE. And last, the board now has good cause standard in which the board can consider waiver of the types of hours received on a case-by-case basis. Also to note, there are no economic or environmental impacts stemming from these changes. In regards to the new regulation CAR 65515, a reciprocity statute required the board to gauge the amount of time an applicant for the Kansas license by reciprocity has been in the active practice of optometry in another state. That term was previously undefined. The regulation gives clarity and a definite standard to reciprocity applicants as to what constitutes the active practice of optometry. Would any board member like to make any additional comments regarding the changes we made? All right. With that, I will officially close the hearing on CAR 6556 and CAR 65515. The regulations, along with the certificate of adoption and the economic impact statement, will be submitted to the Secretary of State for publication. All right. Let's go ahead and move along. Ms. Murray, is Dr. Sowash with us yet?
Good morning, I'm here.
He's online.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can see you.
Good morning. All right, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Sowash, tell us a little bit about your journey to Kansas.
Yeah, I got out of school, started practicing in Denver, Colorado, and during COVID, we decided we wanted to move to Kansas City. My wife's from Kansas City, and we had kiddos and needed some extra help with childcare, and ended up moving to Kansas City. My wife's an OD. She practices at Blue Valley Vision off Antioch and 135th. And my father owns a couple of practices, and I decided I wanted to stay on and help him. And it's required a lot of travel to Colorado and to Arizona. And so with the travel burden, I feel that it makes sense for me to get my license in Kansas and start seeing patients in Kansas. So that's why I'm applying for my license here.
Tell me a little bit more about you've been traveling back and forth between practices.
Yeah. So we've got a couple different practices, and I go and I provide some administrative function. I'm the medical director of the practice in Denver, and so I oversee the professional services in our practice, and so I do a lot of medical record reviews with the doctors when I'm present. I fill in, I see patients. I do anything I'm asked to do inside the practice there. And so I travel every couple of weeks into the practice to provide some of those functions for our family practice.
Any other board members?
So your primary practice with applying for Kansas would be Kansas, or would you still be traveling, or what's the thought process there?
Yeah. So right now, I work. Our practice is part of VisionWorks. You guys are familiar with VisionWorks, and so I'm still on board with them. But I want to get my Kansas license. Nothing's for certain in the future, and I want to get my Kansas license so that I have the opportunity to practice in the state where I live. It'd make more sense for me and my family.
So what I guess what I'm asking is, so you already have a practice location in Kansas that you would be working out of, or
Oh,
that's a wait and see?
that's a wait and see. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to, ideally, I'd like to work with my wife in the same practice, but I don't have anything set up yet.
Dr. Sowash, I just made the connection that your wife has followed me in practice a few times. So
Has she?
yeah, so Lauren has
Awesome.
been to my practice, and I just made the connection from your father's practice. So
Yeah. Awesome.
any other questions or concerns? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the application for licensure by reciprocity for Dr. Sowash.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, reciprocity application accepted. Congratulations, Dr. Sowash. Ms. Murray will be following up with you on the following paperwork, okay?
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it so much.
All right, our next application, Dr. Scriven.
Sure. Dr. Scriven, are you on?
So the agenda says 9:15 a.m., so we may give her a few minutes to do that. Let's move forward and check on the modifications to the agenda. Does anyone have any concerns today? And let's go ahead and approve the minutes from the last meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on April 10th, 2024?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written on April 10th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And minutes approved. Also moving forward, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 13th, 2024?
I'll
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written from May 13th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And that gives us approval of the minutes from May 13th, 2024.
On the trade names, do we know if anyone was not intending on attending?
The only ones that were iffy were Dr. Jacoby and Jody Buller.
Okay.
And the other ones, I'm assuming, because I know I talked to Dr. Nelson. She's going to try. If you want, I can shoot them all an email and see if they're ready to come on board.
We can check again too on Dr. Scriven.
Okay.
Are you available online? Yeah. I may go ahead and skip to the report of the president. Anyone doesn't have any at all? So in June, Ms. Murray and Dr. Nagaraja and Dr. Gerald Rosada attended the ARBO meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was a very informative meeting. I actually felt that it was very productive and really added to what we do here in Kansas on the board, both showing us how we are performing well above other states and other ideas on how we can really improve our efficiency and our function. I think the main portions of the meeting focused on part 3 PEPS exam. And so we really have very good comfort and confidence on how both the written and the clinical forms of the exam were designed. We were able to go through with those psychometrician how the questions are developed, how they are vetted, but then also how the students in a clinical situation are walked through the system. I do think that we will see a very initial shift in passage rates, mostly because it's very different than what's been done before, and it will be a new situation for all students. But I have a lot of confidence that in the future we might be looking at taking that PEPS exam and replacing our. A good portion of the meeting was spent on the Model Practice Act. And I will be honest, although I had read the draft multiple times, I was really unsure on how this would fit into the Kansas board. And it really is a good backbone for legislation and law writing. And so it's not really meant to be adopted into our regulations or policy as much as when we are writing regulation, when we are determining how to include verbiage, that we have some sort of base bone that the entire nation is looking at. So that was approved by the ARBO committee in session. So that was good information. So I highly recommend that you guys consider attending an ARBO meeting. It was very informational. It was very eye-opening to see how other states are functioning, the problems that other states are dealing with. And it was unfortunate to see, for example, Canada has moved to a super board. And so they will no longer have their own optometry board. And I do think they will see the consequences of that. Any questions about the meeting?
When will the new
EPS exam be implemented?
So August of 2024 will be the first time the initial exam is given. And they are telling students that if you are graduating in May of 2025, they recommend taking the August, which seems very early to me, but they anticipate high failure rates in addition to, if you have to retake it, having enough time so that boards have your scores.
So next year's applicants for Kansas licensure will have taken that.
Yes.
Also, the first couple months,
So they're also
Can you tell us more about that and how that new exam will be implemented? Is it at a single site? Just some more details on how that compares with the current part 3.
Would you like to save that? I can do it. The national board is very confident that they will be able to facilitate all fourth year graduates in a timely manner, which seems challenging, in my opinion. But they will have one facility in the North Carolina area that gives both the written the written test can be taken in a testing center nationally, and then the clinical test is one site, 8 exam rooms, both with physical mentors and recorded. And they are taken through a gamut of not skill testing, but critical thinking skills and diagnoses with live actual patients.
it also sounds like on their website, if not already, but soon, they're going to have quite a bit of demo available as far as like what the screens are they're working with and how their tissue testing and treatment plans and all of that. So once that's all, so we're really looking into those.
They are 100% providing the applicants with every opportunity to really be familiar with the system. There should not be IT or computer glitches. The schools have access to the software. They know how it functions. They know how it works. So ideally, if you are prepared, there are really very little room for snafus. So that concludes my report. I will go ahead and pass it along to Sheena, report of the vice president.
So at the meeting, NBEO was there, and they said that there would be an opportunity to come to the facility and see how the new test is being administered on September 14th. So I am interested and requested, I think we'll be discussing that at some point. If I can attend to that, I can see it in person. With the idea of having a better idea when we have students coming through with their board exams, and also along the discussion that has been brought up a few times about if campus will continue their testing, what type of testing in the future, making sure we have a clear understanding of what cover and
Tim, is that something we need to vote on? Meaning approving a budget for Sheena to attend?
for out of state travel. It's gonna be board approval, or I think Don or Gary is on the signing list for it.
I don't need to make a motion.
I wouldn't think so, but
I do think in the future, for budget reasons and efficiency, if we are looking at dropping the Kansas clinical exam, we do really need to have some very good comfort and information with what is happening in North Carolina. So I would agree that it's a good idea for Dr. Nagaraja to attend.
We now have Dr. Scriven and Dr. Nelson on the phone or on the, whichever one you want to go to first.
Okay. Let's return to Dr. Scriven.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can, thank you.
I can turn my video on if you want. I have spotty signal today.
Oh, you're okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your desire to come to Kansas?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband, we live in Kansas City area right now. I moved here from North Carolina last year. And he's in the military and he's getting PCS to Fort Riley, Kansas. And so I'll be taking a job with a pediatric ophthalmologist who's based out of Lawrence, and I'll be working in Topeka mainly. So yeah, just trying to get my license so I can work in Kansas.
You have a lot of experience working with pediatrics.
I do, yeah. I completed a pediatric ocular disease residency at Duke University in North Carolina.
Excellent. Any other questions from board members?
Jan, did we have everything we needed for a complete application? Okay, thanks.
I would like to make a motion to approve the application for reciprocity for Dr. Scriven.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. Your application for reciprocity is approved, Dr. Scriven. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Nelson is online also now.
Okay.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So we're moving along to trade names. This is Dr. Cassidy Nelson. Tell us a little bit about your practice.
So I will be opening up a practice in Manhattan. I work and have worked for the last 5 years here in an adjacent community of Woolmigo. And so, yeah, I'll just be kind of cold starting over there. I'm excited about it. Nervous, but I'm raring to go. So
Do you anticipate being open full-time initially?
initially I'll be part-time. I'll still be working for my previous employer part-time as well. So I hired a consulting company, obviously, to help cold start, and they recommended that it'll probably be part-time for the first 2 years or so, unless things really take off. So yeah.
Thanks.
What can you tell us about the trade name Framed?
Yeah, so I wanted something a little bit more unique, rather than, the things you always hear. I am honestly not a super creative person, but one of my friends helped me come up with that, so I have to give her credit. But yeah, I had never heard that, and when I obviously did my research, there's nobody that I could find except for maybe somebody in Canada who was doing that. So
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion for us to accept the trade name.
Any second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Your trade name has approval.
perfect. Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
And Jen, you said the other doctors will not be attending?
I think we have Dr. Bowler, audio only, for the trade name transfer.
Is Dr. Jacoby available? Dr. Buller's available.
Dr. Bowler, I think, is on the line. She said she joined audio only, so she may not be able to.
Any concerns with the trade name transfer of Osage Vision Clinic? Would anyone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve the transfer of the trade name.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And trade name transfer has been approved for Jody Fuller. And moving along to Dr. Ludi. Any concerns with the Dr. Ludi's first choice of Abilene Eye Care Associates?
No, it looks like the other clinic in Abilene is Family Eye Care of Abilene. The community name being in the name, I don't see any other conflicts. Anybody else?
That's what this is, choice 1, 2, and 3, basically.
Mhm. Would anyone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve the any of the 3 trade names listed for Dr. Ludi: Abilene Eye Care Associates, Abilene Vision Care, Abilene Vision and Optical.
Let's approve one.
Pick one. Strike that motion. Motion to approve number 1, Abilene Eye Care Associates.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved for Dr. Ludi, trade name approval for Abilene Eye Care Associates.
Thank you. You can hear me.
And so Dr. Beaver, why don't I give you maybe 10 minutes to discuss the first portion of your presentation, and then we may break and come back to your section.
That sounds good. So basically, the what was presented to me was to investigate our position with radio frequency use for IPL, in which about half the units contain that. And in going through that investigation, I see nothing which doesn't already fall within our scope of licensure, because it's the non-incisional use of radio frequency. So the fact that we've already approved IPL, or decided that that was in our ability to make it content of services, radio frequency is just a means to do that. So I don't see that it requires any changes with anything we've done or further approval, because it's already within our scope and already within our approval.
Can you share why radio frequency would be chosen over?
Basically, it allows during the procedure for a little deeper tissue effect of the meibomian gland regeneration, let's call it, where through the other means it's more surface and you can actually get a little more skin irritation. And the radio frequency allows that treatment to go a little deeper and be more beneficial for the outcomes.
Do you see long term most of these moving towards radio frequency?
Yes. I think it'll get to where every device has that, and it's probably not going to be an option to get it without it.
I don't think we need to vote on that, Tim, do we?
No, I mean, not per se, but we might at some point discuss a little bit further. I mean, one of the things we need to do is visit our statute. And I mean, if the board is going to take a position that it's within scope, then we need to make sure that, you know, that's kosher with the statute. Because obviously that's 1501 is where the scope is defined.
Is that something you and I can work out over time then?
Yeah, I mean, there have been issues in other states looking at that very thing. And it comes down to parsing language of the statute. And I think at the very least, that's been a fight in South Dakota. So I think it does merit, you know, some legal analysis to make sure that we're comfortable with, you know, the fact that it does fall within the scope. So that's what I would suggest. I mean, we can certainly, you know, revisit it. You know, whether you want to take some kind of action today or in the future, but you know, I think it'd be warranted to take a look at it.
So
I think we'll leave this in your lap, Dr. Beaver, where Tim can work on some language for the statute, and we can look at it at a further date to approve.
sounds great.
I am going to go ahead and start our break. Jan, do you think we'll be okay starting at 9:30, or do you need till 9:35?
Well, if all of the applicants are back up there and ready to go, we could start at 9:30. You know, I could start it early. If they're sitting up there waiting, we could just start it early. Yeah, we can shoot for it, maybe 9:32.
I would default to Dr. Beaver if you would like to take a truncated closed session.
So I would like to make a motion that we go into closed session for patient medical data discussion that would be non-public. And I think that would last for about 20 minutes. Does that time work? Your schedule?
What so I can understand
The
a little bit more as far as
The
purpose.
discussion involves some patient treatment that would be HIPAA protected, so it wouldn't be for a discussion during open meeting. And it centers around a complaint.
Okay. Are you seeking legal consultation as part of this?
I am seeking legal consultation as part of this discussion.
Okay.
So do we need to vote on this, or can we just?
We need a second. And I'm sorry, Dr. Beaver, what time did you say we would?
I said approximately 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. We would need a second then of a.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we will be exiting the meeting at 9:12 for executive session and returning at 9:35. pulling us out of executive session. Dr. Beaver, does that conclude your report? All right, moving along, report of the member at large.
I have no new business. I did receive a clarification from a member about some CPT codes to determine if those were able to be used by Optometry, and they were already on the list, so no further action needs to be taken. I think that did make it onto the agenda, but it's not something that we need to discuss or vote on.
While we're on that topic, do we want to confirm who is the keeper of the codes?
I don't know. I don't really.
At some point it was mentioned that I would do it, but I don't have them actually. So this conversation made me realize that.
I can send them to you. I can also post them on the board member only website, so that way everybody can see and look. We don't have this issue again.
Posting it on the website sounds good.
And that way it's out there for everybody to see. That when it comes to changes, you can be the person to change. Okay.
All right, report of the public member.
No report.
Thank you. Tim, any report from legal counsel?
Yeah, one thing to make you all aware of. So if you recall at the April meeting, Lauren Snell from the Office of Administrative Hearings came to talk about the Abbey matter. It actually was later that day of the board meeting that Dr. Abbey, through his counsel, filed a petition for review at the Kansas Supreme Court. On Wednesday of this week, the Supreme Court released a list of cases it was denying review of. The Abbey case was one of those cases. And so as a result, the mandate of the Court of Appeals is going to take effect. And at some point in the future, you can expect OAH will be in contact with you about further proceedings in that matter. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
Should we be reviewing evidence in the case or wait until Dr. Snell contacts us again?
I think you can certainly go ahead. I think that was part of his discussion with you, providing you with the exhibits from the case. And so I don't think that there's any reason, you cannot go ahead. Procedurally, I think what we've looked at is there will be a hearing scheduled at some point in the future. And so that'll be the timeline that you'll have as far as, when you'll receive some kind of arguments from the parties.
Okay. Thank you. Any other news from Tim?
No, that's it.
Ms. Murray.
So pretty much 2024 renewals went off without a hitch. I think I expired 7 licenses. I had probably about that many that retired their license. I had 3 renew late for whatever reason, and so that was good. I do sort of have a mini update on the new licensing program for next year. I have a meeting set up with OITS next week to start information gathering again. And a couple of weeks ago, when I talked to the head of the project, she did not think we would be going live by March 2025. So I'm hoping she's wrong, but they seem to be going at a lot slower pace than what we were originally led to believe. So I may still have the old database next year.
If that's the case, do you think we will have to delay when we switch renewal times?
I don't know. This far out, I don't know. If it's a month or if it'll even be going. Once they get going on it, I'll have a better idea. I can give you an update at October meeting as to what they think.
I think we'll need to delay your retirement. Yeah, second already.
Okay, which brings me up to the 26-27 budgets, I'm going to start working on those next month, and they are due to the Division of Budget by September 15th, 2024. And one of the things I was going to put in for the 26 budget, because the fiscal year starts January 1, 2025, or July 1st, 2025, is I was going to put in another overlay with me and my replacement for training, additional training, because that will get them through the exam budget and that can be gone. So that's what I was going to do. But I didn't know if there was anything else, any other little projects or anything that you would like me to put into the budgets.
I'm only concerned, Mr. Resner, that we have more than a dozen pending investigations. And if you think we should increase our allotment for legal fees.
Okay. I mean, we can certainly look at
Because we do have
historically.
litigation fund to fall back on if we go over my budget.
I just don't know how many will go to hearing, how many will be on it. I'm not sure, but I know we have a lot to begin again now that this Supreme Court's decision has come through.
Well, that's true. Well, Jan, you may provide a brief explanation for those who may not know about the litigation fund. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar.
Okay, so I think back in 2012, the legislature gave us this litigation fund, and it is basically our rainy day fund for litigation expenses in case something goes over. In fact, the first year that we got it, I was very glad to have it because we did have a hearing that cost a bunch that I ended up having to get into it. The money that is in it is actually from our fee fund that is transferred over to the litigation fund. It can cap at 400,000. I think we're right at around 90,000 in it now because last year they transferred 90 back to the fee fund just to make sure with the new licensing program we didn't run out of fees or money. But that's basically what it's there for. I can't spend out of it until I get approval from the director of the budget before, and I have to have actual receipts saying this is how much money we need for this reason.
Any other comments for budget? Any comments from the public at this time? And let's get out calendars and we will schedule next meeting. Jan, do you want to throw some dates at us?
Usually you meet again in October. And I had kind of been in contact with Judge Snell, and I told him I would let him know when the next board meeting was to see if that would work, on his for the Abby thing.
I'm looking at later October for the last 3 weeks.
I'm out of town the 27th to the 30th, but otherwise I'm around.
Any concerns with October 15th or October 22nd?
I can make the 15th work.
I have a conflict starting at 2 o'clock on the 15th, but the morning would be open.
So if we do the 15th, what time in the morning would you want to start?
Probably
8:30. 8:30?
Something we have been tossing around.
Oh, I forget. You guys have to drive.
Yeah, but I can put them up the night before if they need to, instead of having to they get up. Because we used to do that when I had people driving in from Wichita. I would put them up the night before.
Do you prefer that or just make the meeting to 9:30?
I'm fine with that time. We can make it work.
30. Yeah.
So 8:30 on the 15th.
And then do you want to have it here in the Capitol or you want to have it somewhere else?
So this question was asked to me prior. If we have it elsewhere, are we still recording Zoom?
That would be wherever we're at. I'm assuming that Tim's office, we could probably still be recording, correct?
Yeah, we could. Well, we troubleshoot that if that's where y'all want to have it. You're welcome to come to my office.
Or do you want me to check with Judge Snell, see if that day works for him for the Abbey hearing, and then decide from there where to have it?
Let's check with Judge Snell first.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and put something on the books for the following meeting? Or is it too early? And then do you have dates for when session opens in January?
Just looking.
Okay.
Session opens January 13th, 2025. If we have it here, then we're going to have to do it prior to that date.
Does anyone feel strongly one way or the other about having it here versus Tim's office?
Nice, comfy chairs.
They're okay.
Does Jan still bring snacks? So last year we met the first week of January, which was really kind of tight on.
Yeah, because it was like the day after the holiday.
And so all right. How about January 8th? We'll put that in tentatively, and Jan will confirm.
Okay. And again, capital or wherever.
I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about that after we hear from Judge Snell.
Okay. Well, up until COVID, we always met in Tim's office. And then when COVID hit, so we could spread out more, we've been meeting here and it's free. So the price is right. You know, and plus then if we have people actually coming in, then it's easier and we don't have to mess with the audio visual because we have somebody that does that for us. And there are all kinds of good reasons why.
If this makes your life easier, I would say we'd stay here.
Okay. Because we can go back to room 218 for the meeting, 281 for the executive sessions. And in fact, next year for the exam, I'm proposing we have do the same thing, 218 for the board meeting and 281 for instead of having it clear up here. The board, the reason we're even up here is that one year the legislature ran long. And so we were scrambling to find a place to hold the written exams. And so this room was where we had it, and the board had decided they liked it for the interview part. So that's why we're up here. And that's the only reason we're up here, because we used to be down in, when I first started, it was like 218, or I think it might have even been on the first floor that we had it. So, but that's why we're here. If we can be consistent with 218 and 281, I think legislative research would really appreciate it. Board training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even just like half a day, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And maybe, you know, have the board meeting in the morning and then the board training in the afternoon.
We discussed having it. I am fine tacking that on to our next board meeting, knowing that Tim would have to be involved in the very early portion so he could leave by 1:30 or 2.
Yeah.
That is something also. Do you intend on having former board members here?
I could ask
if they check with
see
some of our investigators and.
Yeah. and see if they can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have any board members interested in an additional executive session? All right, so I'm not sure how this works. Do we pause until tomorrow? Because we actually adjourn tomorrow.
Yeah. Usually, I think they recess. It's I think how it's usually put in the minutes. You recess until after the exam on Saturday. It's how I usually write it up in the minutes.
Make a motion. Okay. So we'll be in recess.